how can we tackle it? So like, how can that mindset be changed? What do we need to do?
So first of all, we have to understand that this is a
Problem, yeah.
Okay. The first step to understanding this is economics, business, politics is all downstream of culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is not true of India only. This is also true of the world. So, for example, so sometimes it's better to understand an issue by taking some other part of the world as an example, because we tend to be so caught up in our own thing. It is better to take an analogy from some other place where we can be a little more sort of less emotionally biased about it. So go and look at the European Renaissance. Okay, so Europe, after the decline of the Roman Empire, went into the Dark Ages. It became the backwater of the world. So the great Greeks, the Romans, etc., the whole thing went into a steep decline for about 1,000 years. Okay, and then somewhere in the 1400s, 1500s, Europe began to change. And its own ability to take risks suddenly changed because there was a cultural shift. So we now think of Venice and Florence, for example, as places of art. But in fact, first and foremost, they were actually places of finance and trade. What was the great invention of Florence is not art, first of all. It is actually the double entry bookkeeping system.
Oh.
Venice invented the stock market. Okay, this was their contribution, the joint stock company. These are the kinds of things the Europeans began to invent. This is roughly the same time you have Galileo. Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci is remembered for as a painter, but in fact he was an engineer who also painted.
And you can see that in his paintings as well.
Yes. Look at the kinds of, that's why the idea of a Renaissance man who was taking risks in multiple directions at the same time. And that is what triggered the European Renaissance. This is the same people who then began to say, okay, Vasco da Gama and Columbus set out. One came to India, one discovered the Americas. But in both cases, they are from the same small general area, southern Mediterranean general area. One was an Italian working for the Spanish, there was a Portuguese. And they took this massive physical risks. I mean, never mind the impact of it. It's a different matter that it had.
They were taking risks.
Yeah, devastating impact on indigenous peoples. But I'm just telling you the risk-taking attitude of the Europeans within a few years. Go to Elizabethan England, okay? At the same time that the Elizabethans were, taking on the Spanish Armada, they were, Francis Drake was circumnavigating the earth. Was the same time that Shakespeare was performing the plays. The same people who were doing one were also watching Shakespeare's plays being performed live for the first time.
Yeah.
So what was going on here? It is a change in mindset about what you think can be done, the risks you can take, the scale of things. So this is the kind of thinking that happened there. And for the subsequent 500 years, the Europeans dominated the world. And it's not just Europe, the offshoots as well. It's like the North America. They are the people who dominated the world. The European cultural civilization dominated the world. Now you can also see the decline, the beginnings of that decline. The same people who were thinking about how to classify different elements in nature, how to classify biological, the same people are now spending their thinking about classifying different kinds of genders. Yeah. So what has happened is that, they have stopped taking, meaningful risks and are becoming become a caricature of that risk taking. You see, suddenly what modern art broke through from classical lines and they created Picasso and modern architecture and all of that. They have now become a caricature of themselves. You just go to Tate Modern and see. I mean, there is some good stuff there, but much of it is now garbage. So the point I'm making is a culture of serious risk-taking as opposed to caricatures of risk-taking as a people, where we take risks in multiple fields, from science to business. That is actually a mindset. And that mindset has to be built in India. Somebody has to invest into it as a people. Okay, this will then show through in the Olympic gold medal in the same way as it will show through in
Business.
art,
business,
other things.
films, whatever.
Same
Everything.
thing. It's the same thing.
Everything.
It's the same mindset.
So, do you think our school curriculums also have some role to play in this, building that mindset eventually?
It's circular. I mean, the stuff we have in our curriculums is a reflection of our mindset. So there is some effort to change them, but really, it will not happen in silos. None of this will happen in silos.
Do you also feel we lack idols in India?
No, of course. So they are, ultimately a people become the heroes that they worship.
I mean, sorry to cut you out, but as we were discussing before the podcast, if someone asks me who my favorite businessman or entrepreneur is, I will always say Elon Musk.
So that's for your generation.
For my
but look at the Elon Musk and one of the
how
points is
crazy he is.
how he's a crazy guy.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is, he's not only he has completely revolutionized, electric vehicles, but at the same time, he went into space. He's created a boring company.
He's doing so much.
And off the top of his head, he went and bought Twitter, renamed it X. Some of it is unnecessary and crazy, but you see, there's no point in blaming the fact that he's crazy, because he wouldn't be Elon Musk if he wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
The things that you may find too crazy are a part of that package.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So this is why it is important. I mean, sometimes says unnecessary nutty things on
Twitter X. Yeah.
Right. But if he was the guy who was saying the restrained, sensible things, then he would be, doing a postdoc in Stanford today. And nobody would know who he is.
Yeah.
But because he is crazy. And so this thing, this edginess, you can complain about America, and there are many things going wrong in America today. But America still retains that edge and that spirit. Yeah. You can still have some guy who will stand up, drop out of college.
They only set up a dream,
Yeah, so it is now under some serious threat, and I am fully cognizant of it, and I know.
Yeah,
some of this,
of course,
with
the last
all the woke stuff.
Yeah.
Is part of the declining part of it.
Yeah,
but there is still some part of America that is willing to go out there and do these things. So, same thing is true of India. If we want to be a great global power, we have to have that culture of doing some completely out-of-box things. And it will come from people, by and large, I'll also tell you, who are not insiders to the system. All sudden changes happen by outsiders going and coming and disrupting the system, because the insiders are too built into it.
That's so true.
Yeah, so I am myself trying to do it in my own way. I'm trying to disrupt processes and reform them inside the government. But at the same time, I have no training in history, for example, but I have gone and written history books, which have been quite disruptive.
You're a multitasker.
Yeah, I'm disrupting that as well. I'm building a ship, by the way. I don't know if you're aware.
Seriously?
Yes, so I'm building a wooden ship, which is using 5th century AD technology. So 1500-year-old technology, Gupta era ship, stitching it together and trying...
film doing that.
We are doing all of that. In fact, we are filming it. We'll put it into a documentary. But the idea is to sail this ship in these ancient routes to Middle East, to Indonesia, to Bali.
Brilliant.
And why am I taking the trouble to do this? And because I think it is important not merely to build it, but to sail it. So I intend to be on those ships, those voyages myself. Because, and by the way, we actually don't know how these ships behave in the water, because nobody has sailed in these kinds of ships for generations. But it is important to do this, to break ourselves out of this thinking process. You see, it is important. That's why I wanted to write these books about our ancient voyages. That was what the book called Ocean of Churn. I wanted to write this book, Revolutionaries, to tell about those amazing, adventurous young men and women who gave us freedom. It wasn't about going for a walk to Dandi and wandering around the beach.
Talked about or celebrated.
Yeah, you need to see the amazing efforts that went into these extraordinary people who did some crazy things. I mean, Pandurang Khankoji. I mean, the guy went off to America. Then he made his way back to try and win India's freedom by raising an army and trying to march against India through Persia and Balochistan in the First World War.
Yeah.
And then he failed. Then he went off and revolutionized agricultural science and is, effectively the father of the Green Revolution.
Yeah.
Again, people don't remember him. They give the credit to other people, but he's actually the father of the Green Revolution.
Yeah.
So he was a revolutionary during the political thing. He learned multiple languages, Spanish and Sanskrit and Marathi and English and Hindi and how many other languages he learned along the Persian. So amazing characters.
Yeah.
But you see, we don't celebrate these people.
Yeah. So, one thing which I have gotten out of even from this conversation and something that I see in our daily lives is also, and I spoke about this abhi pehle also, that coming back to the business part of this,